Hello there.
Don't have a good day. Have a great day.
Talk to me, Goose.
I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
Why so serious?
Squirrel! I could do this all day.
Are you watching closely?
Welcome everybody to the One-Eyed Film Podcast. I'm your host, Seth Mossberg. We're in the Boundary Waters.
Yes,
we
are.
Up in northern Minnesota. And we were like, hey, virtual studio in the
Virtual
woods,
studio?
in the man cave. In the
Boundary Waters Canoe Area Wilderness?
So I'm here with Ethan and Sterling. Sterling actually drew the artwork for our testimony audio drama.
Yeah.
So he's talented in
I did the
that.
cover. It was kind of cool.
It was pretty cool. And we are going to talk today about the question, is Hollywood dead? Now, there are a lot of different aspects to this that I think would be interesting to cover, but one of the main things is very topical for today is the strikes that are happening with the writers, the actors, all that stuff. What do you guys know about that? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the first one was like TV. Like, wasn't it the late night strike happened first? And then the whole Writers Guild came down, right? I thought. And I heard that some other ones were thinking about like VFX artists. I thought there was murmurs about them going on strike too, but that's about it. I know.
I don't know. I wasn't paying attention. I thought they just wanted more money.
More or less.
More or
yes.
less.
Good for them.
More money, less crunch time. Crunch time is a thing that plagues many industries, especially media and consumption industries. So.
Yeah, the desire to get it out quicker
Yep.
versus make sure it's the best it can be so that you can make money sooner is
Or
definitely how it works.
or letting your employees sleep at their own homes.
Yeah, that's
Are you saying?
Dormitories are here
Are you
for a
saying
reason.
you enjoy watching people sleep underneath their desks and get 4 hours of sleep during crunch time
I'm just
hours
saying,
before release?
As long as they provide a mattress.
in the media space, there is often options to stay the night at your workspace, but that shouldn't become the default. And I
No.
think that's what a lot of the strikes are about, is not specifically like getting 4 hours of sleep, but like the amount of work that they are being required.
The crunch time.
The crunch time. The
Yeah.
amount of work they're being required to do with no extra pay, no bonus pay. And yeah, it's a problem. Like when the producers or even just the heads of companies realize that they're already used to this low wages and lots of work and all that, then they capitalize on that
Yeah.
and keep moving at the same pace, if not faster, with
Even
more
looking-
and more stuff.
Even looking at like the production pipeline, like I'm surprised it was the writers that struck first because they're at the front. They have a lot more wiggle room. Like I'm surprised the VFX kind of
This time.
guild or whatever. Yeah, it's like they're at the end of the line.
Yeah.
Like they are almost pre-release. Like they get the hardest crunch because all the extra time that the people at the front end took up, they're left with, they lose it. They have to crunch. So
Yeah, and the part of the writers' strike, the thing that started it off was their demands when it came to AI, because AI generation for scripts and stories and started to become an actual worry because it's become so good in the last year or two that they were worried that they were going to start using AI for the most part to generate the majority of the story.
yeah,
And what's interesting is that there's two sides to this. Like, yes, we want to stand with them so that they get fair wages and all, but they also need to be giving us quality work. Like, some people have joked that the AI would give better quality scripts than some script writers.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, it's kind of whack like that, where we are kind of grouping them all together, the good writers and the bad writers, to make sure they
Yeah.
get paid fairly, but they're also not giving
kinda
us
like
the same quality.
the AI it's consistent, right? There's not as much variation. It's kind of that middle of the line. Oh, it's passable. It's pretty good. Whereas like actual humans, you can either that spectrum is much larger. You can have really, really good work and you can get a lot worse work too. So
There's something that I heard that was if you want to use the general language model of, say, ChatGPT, you're going to get a very general script.
yeah.
Like it shouldn't need to be said out loud, but if you're gonna go very basic and get a basic script from a computer or from a program, you're gonna get a pretty mid story. If you get people with creativity, then you're going to get a real story
With passion,
But
yeah.
passion.
Think about this. You take a large language model and you train it on the top 1,000 movies ever made.
Yeah.
Well, now that's not your basic model. That's not all of the English language. That's the best storytelling
Yes, it's the
that
best
we have
storytelling.
that humans have created. Now, it can't create anything new. It
Yeah.
can only create mashups, but
So that-
those mashups still might be really good, better than what writers could create.
So that's the thing, though, is that mashup becomes the norm, and all of a sudden that's just, oh, this isn't just a normal movie. So let's say they do that, they take like the top 1,000, and obviously if you just take the genres, you can't just take a movie, like good movie. Many movies are good for very different reasons. So it's like, let's say, okay, you have an action movie, right? Because that's kind of the main popular movie that's coming out these days. And you take the top 100 or 1,000 like action movies. It's not gonna bring anything new to the table with action movies. It's just gonna remix and make a very baseline safe movie to make.
Yeah.
But then, like, how many... I mean, like, there's Barbie and Oppenheimer. Those are two new, great movies that are very different. But I think that's the exception to the rule that has been movies in the past 5-10 years where, oh, new Marvel movie out, same story.
Yeah.
Oh, Star Wars movie, well, that was bad. Like, we have such high expectations for writing, but also, like, most of these writers who are on strike, no offense, are making content that is mid. If that's a product of their work, of like the fact that they're crunching all the time, maybe, probably. But the fact is, companies don't always want exceptional work. And they don't always want exceptional writing. They want writing that'll make them money.
Yeah.
And if you don't have to pay a writer, you just have to pay a person who can write prompts, who's cheaper, and can still make content that people will watch and pay for, well then there will always be a place for good art.
Yeah.
But there's also a place for mediocre art that people will still pay for.
Yeah, that's kind of the reality of Hollywood. Hollywood is an industry. It's not like an artist. It's the goal is to make money in the end, and that's like with all the executives and stuff. That's their goal. It's like, is this going to make money? So that's why I think that's why lately we've seen that kind of drop in. I don't want to say quality, but just boldness in movies.
Less willing to do new things.
Yes, it's like this. It's like this works. And we know how to do this for cheaper now because we've done it before.
I mean, even Oppenheimer is in the style of, like, what was that, Elvis movie, and then, like, just taking famous historical figure.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
What?
Like some of the recent ones.
Yeah, where it's just famous historical figure, tell their story.
Tell their story, yeah.
Which is not a bad format, but it's going to start getting tired.
Yeah. The greatest form of flattery is imitation or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's a whole like art concept of imitation versus stealing versus copying or whatever.
Inspiration,
as
many call it.
So you just got to be careful with that, and I think Hollywood does not. I think Hollywood has leaned away from the inspiration, the artist, the creativity, and just needs quantity.
Yeah.
The streaming service from every company has really ruined how things are made. Like, not only is that model very, I don't want to say wrong, but it's a very, pay so you can keep coming back.
Quantity over quality model.
Yes, for sure. And
like, you look at Netflix and it's just like they pump out millions of shows, and it's like, okay, how many of them are good?
Yeah,
very, very few and far between.
Well, and streaming services are losing money like crazy. Disney Plus is going under like crazy. I think Max lost a lot.
Max.
Just Max. It's not HBO. It's not HBO Max. It's just Max. Yeah, they're in trouble, and it's partly because they've dug their own grave. Like, they got the initial spike with, yes, Disney's making a subscription service. Like, whoa,
you can go watch all the old Disney movies.
Yeah, and that was great, but then you get through them, and now you have nothing new to watch, and if there is something new, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
And yet you're still paying for it, and a lot of people just say that's it. We're gonna cut it, and we're not gonna lose anything.
I would say the bigger reason people are cutting is because of independent content from YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, this, that, or the other. Like, we had the same problem with cable, right? Where cable just got too expensive and all the stuff on it was mostly crap. But we kept it around because there was no other option. And the moment there was another option, Netflix, everyone cut it and went for Netflix.
Yeah.
But now when you go to independent like content creators like on YouTube, you're now the product instead of the actual content itself. They're trying to appeal to you. And sometimes that's where the art gets to flourish again, right?
Yeah. And I think YouTube has been a big competitor to Hollywood, which is really weird to say, but YouTube as a style where you have creators making monthly, weekly, daily content, whatever they choose, has become more entertaining for the average home than a TV show or maybe
the
even a
massive staff it takes to run it.
Yeah, and YouTube videos you can make by yourself. It isn't that hard to start a channel. You just need to make sure you're making quality work.
And you're consistent.
And you've seen this great divide on YouTube in the last 5-10 years of videos becoming longer and longer or shorter and shorter. You're either making shorts, reels, TikToks,
Or live streams that are like 10 hours long.
not necessarily live streams, but half-hour deep dives into a certain topic or video essays. I love video essays. Stuff like that is people are valuing the person and the quality they can come up with by themselves. A company dragging them down like that.
Or art too. It's like a lot of like independent filmmakers and like artists that do that kind of thing. Like I think it's Ian, what's his name?
Ian Hubert.
Ian Hubert, right? I love his stuff, but he does it all on his own. And it's like, I find it has more character and soul to it than most other things for sci-fi I see.
But then you start getting into like how big, like he'll start getting big enough where he needs more people. Like he uses other people, actors and sound and music composers and all that. He starts using them. Like at what point does he turn over into a mini studio and then he starts seeing the same problems what we're addressing right now?
Yeah, I think it's just a cycle that has come to exist within like the creative media space. Is that cycle of small to big and then big to small again, that shift become more apparent, right? Because even like some of the like last century, like how some of the mainstay producers and companies we have now were small and they had a lot of more character in some of their movies and bolder topics, and then as they got bigger they had tried to appeal to more audiences, which tamed it down a lot more.
Was that ever a thing though? Is there really a cycle there? Because like take Disney for example. Disney was one of the first, right?
Yeah.
When it came to at least animation, and they broke into filmmaking. But like 20th Century Fox, like I feel like all of these, they are the establishment and have been the establishment since the creation of the medium, right? Where if we're calling it a cycle, this is the first turn of the cycle. If it ends up going big, I don't know. I don't know. Like their size does matter when you're making stuff because you can make it at a grander scale with higher quality and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I guess you kind of go for quality in visual versus quality in content, and you kind of have to make them
turnaround
easy medium
speed too.
Yeah, turnaround speed as well.
Like especially when you're dealing with sequels and the new trend being cinematic universes.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That's been a new thing in the last 20 years. Not even 10, 15 years of, not the new ideas not kind of being bottled up because of sequels or
reimaginings, as they call them.
Reimaginings, stuff like that. And I think that has also hurt Hollywood a lot. Like this year alone, Quantumania, Indiana Jones, they kind of just tanked because people are getting sick of cookie cutter films or old ideas with a new spin. Like even starting back as long ago as Ghostbusters, the female version, that people started like, okay, it's not the same. Like, yes, it's the same concept. It just doesn't work the same. If you want something like that, make an entirely different story in a different universe. And that's kind of trickled down into today where there's a lot of revivals of old sagas in movies. Like the whole sequel trilogy for Star Wars is not loved as much as the other ones. Things like that just, I think, have tanked Hollywood because they think when you realize that we are in the era of nostalgia where our parents and us as young children had an experience watching the first Star Wars or watching Indiana Jones. Like our parents saw Indiana Jones and then they showed us as kids. Yeah. Now we are getting older and they're making those sequels or reimaginings or legacy sequels. Even legacy sequels are a problem. And they're making those again without the same spirit as the original. And that's something needs to change there because they're not only not adding anything to the original story, they're actually making it worse.
But then I bring up the counter of like Avatar, for example. Avatar's sequel, I would say, was amazing.
Yeah.
As a sequel.
I'm not saying all sequels.
As a sequel, but like it can be done right.
It can be done right.
Yeah.
But
it's not without exceptions for sure.
Yeah.
I feel
but is Avatar the rule or the exception?
Yeah. Another thing that's been happening is the adaptation. We're also in the era of adaptions of everything. And what I've found is, I'm going to bring up the Uncharted movie. That came out, right? And I was like, okay, this is literally just a treasure hunting action movie with the characters' names and the title slapped on it, right? I feel like that's also been an issue. It's like they just call it a movie to get the attention. Yeah. But it's just a different. You could make that, call it anything else. It would have been a fine movie, but the fact that they called it the Uncharted movie is kind of what killed it.
We talked about this in the video game episode, where some stories can only be told in a certain format.
Yeah.
Some movies are made for animation. A lot of Disney movies are made with that magic in mind that only really works in 2D animation or 3D animation. Video games have a different feel to them depending on if you're playing them or what you can do in a video game. It's a very different feel, and it's curated for that story specifically, and it cannot be translated. I think this was seen with the Cowboy Bebop.
Yep.
I saw a video on this. I don't know either version that well,
I watched both of them.
but I know that
Yeah.
it's one of those where the framing of the live action just cannot match the original
The
version.
character of the original, right? Half the appeal of the characters was the emotion that you got in animation and the kind of the silliness that it was, the gag of and having them being filled with so much character and the over exaggeration. Whereas like the new one, it was like, okay, this guy just sits there and smolders the whole time. Like that's not how any of the characters were in the original. And it's also like, especially with line art, like you cannot capture like the mechanical design of Cowboy Bebop. It was way more interesting to look at line art, and it's like, oh, this is super gritty and realistic now. I'm like, that doesn't capture what the feel of the world at all.
And Corridor Digital has done some stuff with live action anime where they do the anime lines and the thinking in their heads and the over exaggeration.
Yeah.
Those are funny and by themselves, but they're kind of a parody of anime, like how it can't be real life.
No.
And then they've also tried the opposite of acting out anime and making it look like it. That has its own flair, but it's not trying to copy it and make it be the same thing. Like this whole live action trend has done more hurt to the industry than help. Some things need to be left alone as they were intended instead of always change. Like Disney is shooting themselves in the foot because their original IP, their animated movies from the 30s, 40s, 50s that are classics are now being kind of tarnished by the live action versions. Like,
I don't know. I think they always have made really bad sequels.
Oh.
Lion King 2, Lion King 3, Lion King 4. No, I like...
Wait, there was a 3 and 4?
There
I'm
were
pretty
actually
sure.
a lot of Disney,
They just-
unknown Disney sequels.
Yeah.
There was
No.
Little Mermaid 2, there was Cinderella 2 and 3, I believe.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
this is not a new phenomenon. They have always destroyed their
Bad
own
at
IPs.
sequels in general.
I don't think, like, I think we think right now, oh my gosh, we've destroyed the Lion King because of the Lion King
The legacies.
sequel. But I don't think so. I think we're gonna forget about these movies in about 10 years because they're just bad, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yes, there is something to be said about that. Like, yes, many people don't know about the original sequels to those movies.
Yeah.
They were just forgotten to time.
yeah.
I just don't know how we can do that now.
So are we going to forget about it, but are our kids going to forget about it?
Yeah.
Right? Because the generation that grew up not knowing the original Lion King and just seeing the new one is going to be like, oh, that was bad. I'm sure the original was bad.
And when
right?
we're, like, the Lion King is actually the live action Lion King of all of the live action reimaginings was probably the best of them.
Yeah, because
it
they
looks bad.
it looked good, and they literally just put the same story. It was like the same dialogue.
Yeah, bold take. If you are gonna do a reimagining in live action, just do the exact same thing. Like, there's
was-
no reason
who
to
is
add
this-
or subtract.
It was the same
Wow.
movie, but with 3D models. That
Yeah.
was the only difference.
it looked really good.
Yeah.
The translation of lions' emotions that you
Yeah.
can't do in real life
Yeah.
is really what didn't
Killed
do
it,
well for
yeah.
that one. But you're totally right. The reimaginings, just do the same story, is what is digging Snow White into the ground right now.
Yeah, or I mean, I never saw the
I think the only
Little
one
Mermaid, but like
that-
from my understanding, Little Mermaid, different story. Like,
Yeah, they changed Little Mermaid. Not only, I mean, physical characteristics aside, the story ended up with her not wanting the prince
Yeah.
and just being friends as they traveled the world together.
Yeah.
That's how the story ended, because true love is gross, apparently, and just wanting to kiss a girl without her consent, even though she literally couldn't speak, is apparently wrong. But in the Snow White interviews, movie hasn't come out obviously, the leaked set photos of Snow Off-White and the 7 inclusivity hires, they're not dwarfs.
They're not dwarves?
No, Peter Dinklage is the only dwarf.
He's the only dwarf?
The
The
others,
7 dwarves?
The others are, there's probably 4 guys, 3 girls, something like that, and they're
Wait,
Oh, there's
look
girls
like
now?
yes, they're like circus performers. Apparently, dwarves were
Derogatory.
derogatory, according to Peter Dinklage himself, who should be pushing for more, for
Wait,
people
he
actors.
said that they were
Something along those lines.
Oh, come on.
So that's
that
the
man
thing.
is such a paradox. He wants more of like the people with his condition to be in film, but at the same time he's like, no, we
It's
don't want
offensive.
them. It's offensive. It's
And
like pick one.
And it's so funny because the Snow White dwarves aren't short people. They're not short humans.
No.
They're
They're-
different
Yeah.
species.
They're different species. It's
From
like
fantastical lands.
It's like Tolkien's dwarves. Like it's a different kind of.
Yeah, people with pointy ears aren't being offended at the existence of elves in Lord of the Rings.
No.
Hey, I mean,
Hey, people have surgeries to make themselves poor.
you know, I was pretty mad about Brave. There's,
The red hair.
yeah, I was gonna say.
The hair was a little too red. It's not representing
don't
the true
know.
color of ginger hair.
But also for the Snow White, the actress playing Snow White says she watched the original Snow White and hated it. And it's also so dated. This is the first Disney movie that ever came
Yeah.
out. And she hates the source material of the very movie she's making.
That's another thing.
That's a Star Wars problem.
That's
as
another
well.
problem. Is
Yeah.
that like all these actors getting paid to do these movies don't like the movies that they're playing.
Yeah.
It's like when you put the writer on, you like hiring writers. Again with the writers, it's like have blatantly said that they don't like the source material, so they're gonna try to change it. That isn't who you should be hiring to write your movie.
No.
And I think a lot of these movies would actually get much better reception if they weren't trying to steal the IP of another movie.
Yeah.
Like if you just had The Little Mermaid, didn't call it The Little Mermaid, maybe had a little different premise, I think it would do better.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier with
Stand alone.
like the Uncharted movie, right?
Yeah.
Is like the fact that the Uncharted IP was attached to that movie is what killed it.
It could have
would've-
just been
It could have just been
decent
an adventure
movie.
treasure hunt movie, but the fact that they had attached the IP to it is the problem.
Yeah, it's the comparison then to the original.
Yeah.
If it was a standalone, they would have had no problem. Well, it probably still would have been.
I mean, it still
It would have been a
movie.
meh movie,
Meh
but
movie.
it wouldn't be a bad movie.
Yeah.
Meh is better than bad. So, yeah.
I think the way that Hollywood has built itself up in the last couple decades has kind of reached its boiling point and is starting to screw them over and hurt them more than help them.
Yeah. It's like the crack. We were seeing the cracks pull apart.
And the Nolan types of movies where they're very quality and they stand out, or the Tom Cruise Mission Impossible movies that just stand out for how much effort and time is put into them to make sure
Yeah.
they're right. Those are really going to start dividing the industry. And people are realizing, like, not all Marvel movies, just because they have the Marvel logo slapped on them, are good.
Or some high paid actors, right?
Actors.
Too, it's
yep.
like, it's so many things too. It's like, it's always has to be the new big actor in movies now, right? Like,
That's always been a thing.
right? But it's like, that's something I don't think should stick around. Like,
Well, but that's always been a thing.
yeah,
There's always been.
it just feels like a PR thing. Like, there could have been a way better actor for this role, but
Yeah.
they chose the one that's popular right now.
Yeah, like I'm thinking of the upcoming movie, The Creator, starring John David Washington.
Yeah.
That I want to see just because it has John David Washington in it. And that is wrong of me to do that because they happen to get a good hire for it
Yeah.
and not necessarily because the movie is good.
Yeah.
That's something that is kind of,
Well, I'd say,
that's what Hollywood is built
yeah,
on.
I'd say like with that movie, it's like, I want to see that movie because it looks like he's going to do a really good job in that role too.
Yeah.
But like, I just feel like there's a lot of, oh, it's Tom Holland, or it's like, oh, it's Dwayne Johnson again in it or something. That's a little more what I'm talking about, is that just that.
I don't know. I think Fast and Furious is peak movie. Filmmaking. Okay? What
That's
is
peak
better?
cinema.
Yeah, peak cinema. What is better than just cars blowing up, and then really just roided out men fighting, but not being able to lose any fights because
Have you
of their
seen those contracts? Yeah, they have a point system for how many punches Vin Diesel can take.
But like, I mean, those movies are just like, let's just
They're a
keep.
meme. Like they know they're a meme.
They know
It's a
that they
meme.
know they're a meme, and they know what the audience wants, and they'll just give the audience more of what they want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's fan service at its best.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanna cover those movies sometime. But then there's also, let's talk about fan service at its worst, specifically with nostalgia.
Yeah.
We talked about this a little bit with legacy sequels, but bringing back old think about the new Ghostbusters movie, Afterlife,
Yeah.
where they could have had a legitimate sequel. And I can't speak too much on this because I haven't seen the movie.
The Afterlife one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they have it connected with the main character being the daughter or the granddaughter
Yeah.
of one of Ghostbusters, and then spoiler alert, all of the old Ghostbusters show up in the end
Yeah.
to fight the ghost.
Well,
I don't know
3
if,
of 4. Actually, no, it's 4.
No, 'cause they have the ghost
The ghost comes back, right?
Yeah.
The ghost busts the ghost.
So in some part, I think that was done well to connect it all without discrediting the original. But also, they could have just kept rolling with that sequel without a strong hold to the original.
Without the original showing
Did
up.
it mess up the original?
I don't think it messed
I
up
thought
the original.
I thought out of all the Ghostbusters like revamps and everything, I thought Afterlife did the best job.
Probably compared to the female one.
Paul Rudd in that one was like,
I do want to watch it.
but there were some parts where I'm like, what's going on?
Because I know some sequels, like for example, again, bring up Star Wars again, completely undid. Oh, Palpatine's back. Well, the whole point of the whole thing was to get rid of Palpatine.
That quite literally.
They took them 6 movies to do it, so now it's 9.
That quite literally discredited Darth Vader's sacrifice.
Yeah, it made Darth Vader
The entire point, the entire climax of
Anakin's whole
Episode
arc.
6.
Yeah.
So that's
The entire climax of those 3 movies combined.
yeah,
basically.
yeah. The big bad
Yeah.
suddenly just comes back with no real reason. And there were always theories about Palpatine returning through a clone, or that he never really died in the shaft. But
I mean,
Actually,
I
I'm
think,
a believer in the Worthy
I think-
Kids theory.
the what?
The Worthy Kids. Have you seen the animated one?
No.
Where he just falls onto a planet and sits there, and Yoda beats him with a stick for 100 years or whatever.
But I think, I mean, let's go. I'm going to talk about Star Wars a little bit. I think Dave Filoni and what's his name, Jon Favreau, are definitely gonna do what George Lucas did with the prequels.
Yeah.
Where the prequels, honestly, not great movies standalone.
Yeah.
But then you put in the context of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and you add all this media around it that
And then-
buff up the story.
And you
so
also
much.
see, honestly, the formula of like living in the aftermath and then seeing what came before, like knowing what's coming. But one of my favorite ways, like for media, is knowing what's going to happen, like knowing the aftermath of something and seeing how that happens.
Well, that's why. Yeah, that's why. I personally believe the prequels are amazing movies
Yeah.
with poor dialogue.
Yeah,
At
sure.
most.
I don't like saying.
But I think we're gonna honestly. I think the same thing's gonna happen to the sequels, where there's
Eventually.
gonna be enough media between the Mandalorian, Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. That awful series, but it's just adding lore and
Yeah.
information around it, where it's like, oh, Palpatine came back. Oh, well, actually, he spent however many years
Hiding.
hiding and getting cloned and this, that, or the other. Where
Yeah.
okay, now it actually makes sense, and his sacrifice. Like,
Well, my gripe with Star Wars is that they have legends.
Yeah.
Palpatine had legends.
Had.
Yes.
Where
But
they
legends,
killed
but like the ways Palpatine came back in Legends was really good, and like that's what like the cloning thing, and like I thought that was super interesting. But then it was like they had all the source material that was already there. And they're like, nope.
But I don't think that the sequels are going to come around the same way the prequels did.
No.
Because they were so mishappen and strewn all over the place with ideas.
They were so in pursuit of money.
Yeah, and I mean, like, in the end, prequels were written by George Lucas and did
Yeah.
have a greater idea arcing over the 3.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they were a political drama more than anything. But, like, and we didn't get that for the sequels. But if, again, going back to this whole cinematic universe idea, I think they can repair the universe through
Yeah.
other materials.
Prepare the timeline.
But how much of that is them just covering their butt and trying to fudge their way through it just to save some loyal fan,
Retcon.
you know? Yeah.
I don't think they're going to retcon anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd honestly really really wish they'd just, like, boot sequels. I'd totally be down for that.
Just pretend they didn't. They
Pretend
were,
it didn't
Didn't happen.
happen.
yeah, I think.
Completely retcon it. And maybe that bring it all the way back to the writers. Maybe it goes to, like, we're critiquing all of these movies for their bad writing, but is it really the writer's fault? Or is it the system that they're being put in, that they're being forced under?
Yeah.
Having to pump out
Having to
stories
pump out
that
stories
aren't
so
quality.
quickly that
Quantity.
aren't quality. And maybe they even know that.
Yeah.
And some of it might just be politics and that kind of thing. But it could also, I think it's at least worth a shot that we give these writers a shot to, like, actually write some stories that they feel good about. And maybe if they feel good about it, then we feel good about it.
Well, the one thing too is like a diverse audience they're capturing. The writers themselves aren't the most diverse group of people. They're all city Californians, basically, right? It's like, why don't we get some people from other parts of the world, right? And
But I feel like the people from other parts of the world don't want to participate in the Hollywood system.
that's also true.
Yeah, there's a catch-22. I think you and I, as artists, kind of realize that, like, if you want to be big, you have to go to Hollywood. You have to go to school in California.
Yeah.
My degree at Northwestern is not going to get me any job.
My
in
plan
Hollywood.
for a while was to go out to California and to work in those studios.
Yeah, not anymore.
Not anymore. Missionary all the way, baby. Very different path.
But I think when it comes to stories, the point of strong female character is a big one, and how
you present that.
And I think Rings of Power really showed that in a certain light.
I think Rings of Power is a bad example
How so?
of a poorly written female character.
Yes.
I think Captain Marvel is a much better example of
True.
bad character.
And Rey
Bad character
Skywalker and the...
What do you mean
the-
Rey Skywalker?
Sorry, Rey
Sorry,
Palpatine.
Thank
Rey
you very much.
Palpatine.
The
Rey
girl
Skywalker,
from
thank you very
Indiana
much.
Jones, I already forgot her name.
Okay, I watched that movie. I didn't mind it that much. I thought she was okay.
No,
She was like...
she was so annoying.
She was annoying, but she wasn't terrible. Okay? I've seen Captain Marvel's way worse
Okay,
than her.
the female character, or generally any character, but we notice it a lot in the female characters who just have zero flaws. They can do anything pretty easily, and if they have a problem, it's actually someone else's problem with
Yep.
them.
Well,
Remember in Endgame when she just flew through the ship and just showed up and they won?
yeah.
Because
well,
she showed up.
the only thing that could technically defeat her, because she was about to defeat Thanos, was the Power Stone and
Yeah.
a small little punch from the Power Stone.
Yeah.
Besides that,
That she didn't get hurt from at all, by the way.
No, she just kind of got flown back a couple feet.
Yeah.
But her movie, and
her
on top
movie
of that,
specifically, I think
Her movie and her new movie?
her new movie,
She's
which
in
isn't
a
even
new
her
movie?
movie.
Yeah.
It's not even her movie.
Oh, that's not gonna watch
It's
that.
sharing with the other two
Yeah.
because reasons. Actually, it's because no one likes Brie Larson.
Brie Larson as a person, questionable. But,
Brie Larson as an artist.
If we're
as
talking
an actor?
Captain Marvel, I think the greatest flaw with that movie, yes, it's a bad character, but a bad character can be kept afloat by a good story.
I think
But
the problem
the
was...
main character arc was everyone saying you can't do it, and then she saying no, I can do it, and then the whole climax of the film, she just decided everyone else is wrong. I can do it. The power is within me.
That's the same.
It's all about
I think the
me
problem with Captain Marvel is that
versus,
there
like-
wasn't any character in the character.
Well, yeah, but you can have movies that are so focused on the story and the characters
Yeah.
are kind of a side piece. But then, like, you look at Tolkien's writing, where the characters are like these mystical figures who are all powerful and are virtuous, but are in the end powerless to do anything.
Yeah.
Or there are characters who are not powerful, who have to step up.
Yeah.
But then there's Captain Marvel, who's all powerful and just does it. Like there's no conflict. There's no arc.
conditions.
Yeah, it's just them finding the power from within themselves, which is just bad storytelling.
I would say that's
Yeah.
the same with Rey Palpatine.
Yeah. Where was the training arc that Luke got? Where was
when she almost hit the rock a couple times.
yeah,
The second
She
one?
missed the rock
She
every
missed the
single
rock.
time. Even in the episode 7, the first, regardless of what happens in the trilogy, she never picked up a lightsaber in her life. Yes, she had she had practiced with her staff, but then she goes on to defeat not necessarily a Sith Lord. Kylo Ren wasn't a Sith Lord, but
He was a wannabe
He was
Sith
a
Lord.
trained Jedi turned evil on top of the power of the dark side, and she managed to defeat him because she had played with a stick.
Yeah.
That's not good writing. That's just giving all the power to the female and saying that everyone else is the problem, saying you can't do it.
Well, the whole thing too, it's like her being like just being able to use the Force. Like, she just woke up from in that chair and was able to do mind tricks.
Yeah.
Like immediately, like what the heck, man? Like we saw other characters like literally training for hours, and like Luke running through the jungles of Dagobah. Like that's like that was half that movie, was Luke realizing like learning to be a Jedi with Yoda. So
Yeah, and they can't give women flaws if they're supposed to be equal or better than men.
and like there is good female characters.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Arcane
For sure.
Arcane is a great show with
Yes.
great writing with great characters. Like I love Arcane. I don't know if are they making a season 2? Do we
Yes,
know?
I
That's
can't
good,
wait.
and I can't wait for it. Those are some great female characters.
And
Yeah.
even let's look further back than that. When the Hunger Games came out, the
Hunger
actress. Well, yes, it was good. It was pretty good movies.
yeah,
But the actress said, "Oh, this is the first time a female lead has taken the screen," and we're like, "No." Think about Alien or Terminator.
Terminator.
Though she wasn't a main character, but she was a strong supporting lead.
Well, like by that second movie, she was like basically running the show.
There have been strong female characters. That's
Yeah.
how you do it. Is have them go through the same trials as any character. Like
Yeah.
regardless of gender, just have them go through the learning curve.
You have to
of the story.
understand if you want someone to come up very quickly in terms of power, right? Especially
Mm-hmm.
of a hero figure or like even an anti-hero, you have to be able to like see them train and learn their story, and it can't just be, oh, you can do this because you can. Yeah.
Yeah, and even I think of some certain characters who have all the power, and even in a show that is supposed to be the all-powerful character, which is One Punch Man.
Yeah.
That's his whole thing. That's the whole drama of the show, is that he's too powerful.
Yeah, he can't. He's looking for something, a fight.
He's the thing that actually challenge him.
Yeah, and like even just reading it too, it's like I'm caught up with it. It's like doesn't stop. That's and it's the charisma of that kind of more so. And I think everyone too is like, even with like I just read One Punch Man, everyone's trying to be so serious these days. Like, oh, it's the end of the world. It's like, just not every movie needs to be the serious, like this is like might be real kind of thing. It's like, just have some fun sometimes.
Yeah. Or even if or treat the end of the world scenarios with drama, like Oppenheimer. Like in the 40s, they didn't know if setting off the atomic bomb would blow up the entire world, and they used that drama to further the story and the intensity.
I feel like we're stuck in a lot of in between that. Like everyone's like, oh yeah, it's the end of the world, but it's kind of fun. It's like either there's not really, they don't pick a side in that coin.
You have something to add behind the camera?
Yeah. Well, if we want to talk back on the vein of very powerful characters, if we bring it back to the West with the whole One Punch Man thing, Superman is another one.
Yes.
That is also like that. But the main struggle with Superman isn't, can he defeat the villain? Can he actually save the day? One of the main appeals of Superman is, can he actually be normal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like him having to hold himself back in order to fit in with everyone else is a whole lot of that story that people tend to overlook, because superhero movie needs to be about the fight. But other things like that as well.
Well, also too, with Superman is like, not only can he fit in, but can he save the ones he loves, right? Because everyone around him is mortal, right? That's part of that. That's part of the appeal to that story too.
Yeah, and I guess with like a lot of the, gonna get us canceled here, a lot of the strong female characters, it's never a question of if they can do what they need to do, it's if they think they can do it. They always have the power. I guess I'm probably repeating myself, but they always have the power. It's just everyone tells them that they're not strong enough because they're a woman. But like if they're treated like male characters, we're doing a little sexism when we're giving these female characters, we're treating them less than male characters, and because of that we feel the need to elevate them, whereas if we were actually treating them as equals, we wouldn't feel that need to do something different or write them to be special or to like right a wrong, where yes, there has been a historical wrong that we have done to women, but the way to right that is not through this blowback, this like we've gone too far in the other direction to where now it's problematic again. Yeah. Where we need to treat them as if we were treating a male character, and if we were doing that, then we wouldn't have such a big issue. And I think that's where a lot of these good movies with actually good female characters work, like Arcane. I would even say The Hunger Games, regardless of what the actress said, those were good movies. It wasn't focused on she's a woman. It was focused on the overall story and the struggle
with the character.
Yeah, for sure. And it's things like that. I think this extreme feminism from Hollywood is one way that they're trying to fix things. And I want to do an episode sometime about, does culture influence entertainment, or does entertainment influence the culture? But that's a future conversation. Hollywood and studios and producers and actors have kind of been digging themselves in a hole. If they're along the lines of Christopher Nolan, I know we kind of hold him up on a pedestal on this podcast, but if he doesn't really address politics all that much. No. Whether outside of the movie or not, he really just kind of tells stories. And I think those are the best stories, is ones that just tell stories and stay out of it all. And when it turns political, then we're drawn back into the real world when we're supposed to be being taken out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, to a degree, I guess I love the prequels. I think prequels are great movies, but in the base of it, they're a political critique of the American political system in the early 2000s.
Sure.
It's like you can be political in a movie without being annoying, really.
Yeah. There's a line.
There's a line. There is a line.
There's a way of doing it where it's not trying to like blatantly say it. It's like the part of the story is like what people think of it, right? And how you process it and form your opinions on that kind of thing, and like what you see in the story too. It's not a cookie cutter message everyone gets. because everyone comes from different backgrounds with different families, different cultures. It's like, that's the appeal of a story, is that it should not have to deal with those boundaries of culture, family, region, political stance. Everyone should be able to see it and get something from it.
So, is Hollywood dead? Or will it die in the next couple years with these problems?
No.
Are you talking, is this a technical answer, or?
Well, no, because there's just too much money involved.
Yeah, I'm saying that's a technical answer.
Okay, sure.
Technically, it will not die.
Is
I
Hollywood
admit
dead to
that.
us? Possibly.
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 I think that was our conclusion for the other Is Something Dead episodes.
Unless someone else, like, I don't know, the Daily Wire or Nashville in general, pulls some good content and continues to create good content as a alternative, which I find unlikely to a degree.
Well, Hollywood is a very encompassing term too.
Yeah.
I would say it's a little too broad of an umbrella.
It's very fair.
Right? Because is some of these shows gonna die? Probably. Some of these like Monday night shows and stuff like that, they're probably gonna get axed. Is Hollywood probably get a lot slimmer in the next couple of years? Most likely, right? But Hollywood as an umbrella term is very, like, there are other areas of Hollywood I think that are still doing well and still do things well. But
I think what we're going to see in the next couple of years is a lot more focus shifted to the individual creators.
Yep.
I haven't seen the movie. I don't plan on seeing it, but Talk to Me from the Rocka twins from YouTube. They made a movie, a horror movie, and that's getting a lot of attention because it was more of an indie production from A24.
Yeah.
A24 films are a lot of individual movies, individual creators on their own thing. Yes, Daily Wire stuff could start popping up. Things that are very neutral are going to start showing up on headlines more and taking the front seat. Sound of Freedom. We talked about that a couple weeks ago, where that was an Angel Studios that has crushed the box office. It was number 11 in 2023 movies last I checked. It's probably higher now. Things like that are going to start taking the center stage in the box office.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know if Hollywood, like executive producers and people who make decisions with money, are going to see that and invest in those smaller movies like A24, Daily Wire, Angel Studios. I don't know. But I know that those in social media, in our everyday lives, are going to get a lot more attention.
Yeah.
Because Hollywood has started to kind of make enemies with all of the decisions they made, both with money, with quantity, and with the political views they're pushing.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
I think that's a
Hey.
good
Conclusion.
Sounds good. Well, thank you guys so much for listening and or watching. If you're watching, you got to see us in the woods, in hammocks.
Middle of nowhere.
Middle of nowhere. It's been a lot of fun talking about this, and we hope that you guys got something out of it. I hope you guys will follow us on our social media, join us on our Discord so we can continue talking about it there. Share this with your friends, and most importantly, have a great day. Know that you are loved. God bless.
Peace.
Amen.